Welcome to our outdoor open house. We're going to learn a little bit about hedgehogs today. First thing you need to know is the hedgehog that we have here is the African pygmy hedgehog. He's from Africa. It's very hot in Africa. It's also very dry in Africa. Africa has been in a drought for years and years. They don't get much rain. They don't have much water. All this stuff you're hearing about hedgehogs and baths and how cute they are in baths, don't bathe them unless you absolutely have to. Hedgehogs have naturally dry skin. They don't produce a lot of oil. So what you're doing when you bathe them is you're stripping away the oil, you're creating more dry skin. So unless you absolutely have to bathe them, if they do something called self-anointing where they find a food or an item and they lick it, they kind of make a froth in their mouth, and then they contort themselves and spread it on their quills. If they do that and they've decided to anoint with something yucky, you can rinse them off. If you can manage to get away without soap, do that, because soap's going to rinse away more of the oils. But as far as hedgehogs and bath and a lot of the things you read on the internet, don't do it unless you absolutely have to. But heat. Heat is your most important thing. Here is the heating pad that we recommend to everybody. It is this right here. It is literally called Small Animal Heating Pad. There we go. As you see, you just put it in the cage. You can have the blanket on top of it. You want to plug this in, leave it plugged in all year long. Even when it's 90 degrees in the summer, leave this plugged in. Your cage should be big enough that if your hedgehog wants to, it can get off the heat. But if it gets cold, it can go back to the heat. That said, one important thing to remember with hedgehogs is if they get cold, they can go into what we call a false hibernation. What that is it's the body slowly shutting down. It sounds really scary, but as long as you're playing with your hedgehog every day, every other day, you're going to catch it very quickly. You're going to be able to warm up the hedgehog. And cuddling with your hedgehog using body heat, great way to warm up the hedgehog. A warm bath, horrible idea to warm up a hedgehog. Never do that. Because think of when you take a hot shower, especially in the winter, step out of the shower, and you're instantly cold. We don't want to do that to our hedgehogs. Plus, with the quills, it's very hard to dry off your hedgehog. I think I chose the wrong mask for this. So, yeah, like I was saying earlier, unless you absolutely have to bathe, please don't do it. But heat. Heat is, yes?
So heating lamp versus heating pad. Do you have one over the other?
Okay, heating lamp versus heating pad. We're going to go over that too. I prefer this heating pad as your primary source of warmth, mostly because it's very safe. And the hedgehog lays directly on it. Because heat rises, so if they're laying directly on it, they're going to get a lot out of being on the heating pad. Ceramic heat emitters. That's this thing. Notice the bulb is white. It looks like this whether it's on or off. It warms up, it doesn't light up. This is a great secondary source of heat. The reason I choose this as a secondary source of heat, as I was saying, was because heat rises, so you're losing a lot of heat up this way. You know, you're trying to get it down into the cage. The other thing is, these carry all the dangers of heat lights. And we've heard of chicken coops burning down because of the heat light. You know, it falls on something, catches fire. You want to be very, very careful if you're using a ceramic heat emitter. These also come with clamps, so make sure if you're using it, you clamp it to the cage so that it can't fall off. Put it in a place where no papers are going to fall down on it. Again, we don't want to start fires. But this is a good secondary source, and it's going to depend on how warm you keep your house, too. Because the heating pad, this gets up to 100 degrees, which is just slightly warmer than body temperature. So I have heard rumors about heating pads that are going to get too warm, burn your hedgehog. This one is not going to do it. But if you do need more heat, you can do the ceramic heat emitter. You can move the cage to another room in the house. You can wrap a blanket around it. Please don't wrap a blanket around it and put the ceramic heat emitter on it. That's a great way to start a fire. Let's not do that. I tell people to put a little digital thermometer on your cage. If you just clip it right there. If you go to Walmart, Kmart, one of the Mart stores, you can get one probably about $6 that will tell you the current temperature and then also give you the high and low of the past 24 hours. Because you do want to know how cold it was at 3 a.m. when you were asleep and your hedgehog was running. And if you're like us, you turn the heat down at night because we all like to save money. So yeah, it's very important to monitor the temperature. With the additional heat, I tell people to aim for at least 75 degrees. Generally, 73 is okay. 72 can be a little cool for them. Also, when they get older, they might need to be kept a little warmer. So you're going to have to kind of monitor the hedgehogs, see how they're doing. Signs of a false hibernation are the hedgehog starts acting much slower. They're slower to wake up. They're maybe a little grumpier than they normally are. They don't seem to be running on their wheel as much. They're not as active. They're not eating as much. You don't see as much poop on the wheel. By the way, wheels get very dirty. I'm going to constantly clean them. But it is a good way to monitor that your hedgehog's doing well, it's warm enough, it's running on the wheel because the wheel's dirty. So yeah, if you aim for about 75 with your additional heat, you're probably going to be okay. That said, it's important to play with the hedgehog every day, every other day, so you can monitor it, you know how it's doing. And of course, the more you play with your hedgehog, the friendlier and friendlier it's going to get. I do my best to socialize the hedgehogs while they're here, but you have to continue that when you get home. It's think of children going from mom's house to grandma's house. You know, now the rules might have changed and we have to test boundaries and, you know, grandma has to assert her dominance. Same thing, you know, and it's important to remember that you are in charge, not the hedgehog. So if you're going to pick up the hedgehog and the hedgehog's, you know, all huffy and balls up a little, pick them up anyway. First of all, hedgehogs have very bad eyesight, so they don't know that you're their person, and they don't know that it's you that's down there trying to pick them up. They just see something huge coming, you know, above them. Think if you could only see in front, like if you had horse blinders on, and 2 large telephone poles were falling at you. That would be really scary. It's essentially what they're seeing. So when they huff down and get a little quilly, don't take it personally. The hedgehog does not hate you. That's everybody's first reaction. Ooh, they hate me. No, they don't. They just haven't figured you out yet. I'm starting to realize why people always have masks below their nose. They just keep falling down. All right. Other important things. Let's see if I can work from behind the cage. Hedgehog needs something to hide in. Huts are great. There's all sorts of different styles of huts. You can also do a blanket, a hedgehog bag, something so they're not always feeling exposed. Yeah?
Could you have it be softer or warmer like a blanket?
Yes. Oh yeah, blankets are wonderful. Yeah, this is kind of like a fuzzy fleece. So you can buy different hedgehog bags. If you're good at sewing, you can sew them. I mean, you're pretty much sewing 2 rectangles together. That said, I'm not a very good sewer. I have someone else make my bags or I buy them. Yeah. So something for them to hide under, no matter what it is. I mean, you can even get a tissue box. They don't care. It doesn't have to be something expensive. Just something that they can hide in. And your wheel is extremely important. This is the Carolina Storm wheel. This is my favorite wheel. There's a link to this on our supplies page. The supplies page of hamorhollow.com has links to everything we love. So the heating pad, the food bowls, everything we love you can buy off Amazon or Etsy. It's all listed there. This one's off Etsy. The guy who sells it is in either North or South Carolina, I believe. He's very quick about shipping them out. I love these because they're on a rollerblade wheel, so when they spin, they're extremely quiet. Your whisper wheel, your silent spinner, get very loud. If you've ever had a hedgehog before, or a mouse, any type of rodent, you know, running on wheels can get very loud. Little sidebar, hedgehogs are not rodents. Hedgehogs are mammals. This is the litter pan that you can get with the wheel. Spend the extra couple bucks, get the litter pan. Fits in real nice like this. What happens is when your hedgehog's running on the wheel, it's going to poop and pee. If the pan's here, it's going to fall into the pan. The little ledge is going to stop it from getting all over the cage. Now, they're never going to go 100% in the wheel all the time. But doing this is going to keep your cage a lot cleaner. I probably clean my cages half as often with the litter pans in there. Now the wheels you're going to clean every day, every other day. The more often you clean them, the easier they are to clean. If you're like me and you wait a couple days, you might end up soaking it in the sink. If you soak it in the sink, do not soak the roller blade. That's got a little bit of grease in it to keep it going. So I put them in the sink sideways, kind of turn the wheel, get it wet, let it sit there for a little while, come back, scrub it out. But if you clean it every day, you can clean very easily with just a Clorox Lysol wipe, any generic wipes. These are totally safe to use with hedgehogs. You don't have to worry about it drying. You can put them directly back in the cage. This is not going to harm your hedgehog at all. Food bowls. These are two of my favorite food bowls here. I like this one because it's small. I like this one because it's kind of got the rim on it, and this stops them from spilling it, like if I'm putting any type of liquid in here. Also stops them from pushing some shavings, different stuff from the cage around into the food bowl. Still going to get in there, not as much. So there's links to these on the website as well. If you use a food bowl that's too big, they might poop in it. I don't know why. It's not going to be a reliable toilet, but that's what they like to do. Water bottles, I prefer something with a smaller spout. I think it's easier for them to drink out of the little bottles versus like the bigger guinea pig sized bottles. Bedding, I use pine. Pine is cheap. As long as it's kiln dried, and you want to look at it, make sure it doesn't look sappy. I avoid anything with coloring. I avoid things with rose petals, lavender petals. So just plain pine is fine. Aspen's good. You can also use Carefresh, except with Carefresh, you don't want to use that until your hedgehog's at least 6 months old. Just because we do know of some baby hedgehogs that have eaten it and gotten some blockages down here. Then that's going to be a vet visit. At the very least, it's going to be medication, but it could be an expensive operation. So I just tell people it's fine to use once they're older. I do use Carefresh with my retired girls, but I just wait until they're at least 6 months old. Our food. This is our food mix. We do sell it here. We can also ship it. You can order it online through the Hamor Hollow website. Pay by PayPal. I ship out at least twice a week. You can also pick it up here. There's about 6 different foods in here. I'm working on getting rid of as many of the dyes in my food as I can. I started ordering off of Chewy.com, so we're going to see how that goes, because getting things in stores has been kind of hit and miss lately, and yeah, and I like having heavy bags of food delivered to me. It's just easier. For warmth, this is the Snuggle Safe Disc. So this is good for travel. I find this a little awkward to fit in carriers and stuff. But it's also good that if you know we have a storm coming and we might lose power, if you heat this up in advance, you can have it in case we lose power. Because if the heat goes out, they still need to be kept warm. But once the power goes out, if you haven't heated this up, this isn't any good. What I like to use are these little hot hands. Anyone who fishes or skis is very familiar with these. If you do use these, you just want to wrap it in some type of fleece just so the hedgehog can't be directly against it, so they don't chew on it. Hedgehogs don't tend to chew on things very much. They're not rodents, but they will explore things with their mouths. So you do want to be careful with these. This is just some mealyworms. This can be a little snack for them. There's all sorts of different snacks you can get in the store. They can be hit or miss. Depends on the hedgehog. Some really like them, some don't. You can also do waxworms. You can do crickets. Crickets also can be hit or miss. Waxworms you have to be careful with because they are a little bit fatty, so you don't want to give too many. But even with the mealyworms, I tell people treat it like a snack, like giving a kid some candy. You want them to primarily be eating the cat food mixture. So if you feed them too many of those, they're not going to be eating their main thing. They're not going to get the nutrition that they need. The mealyworms, other type of bugs, are great for fiber for them. My throat is getting dry. All right. Toys. This is their favorite toy. You're nodding. You know this. You've seen these. They are adorable when they play with these. This is just craft foam and hot glue. You guys have kids, you know what craft foam is. The sheets that you pick up at the craft store, you cut it in 4 and then just hot glue it. What they do is they stick these on their heads, they flail around. It's really hysterical. If you give them a ball that jingles, sometimes they'll capture that in one end. So they're flailing around and you can hear the ball. It's really cute. Other toys, balls that jingle, balls that crinkle. Some people will use stuffed animals. I've seen Matchbox cars. I've seen McDonald's Happy Meal toys. Basically, anything that's safe for a little kid. You know, there are no small parts that they're going to bite off and choke on. But anything that's safe for a little kid, you can try as a toy. Obviously, be careful of toxic paints and that, but hopefully those aren't on kid toys anyway. Hopefully. I think I hit most things. Questions?
Can hedgehogs eat cheese?
Can they eat cheese? As far as cheese, they have a little bit of an intolerance to dairy. So if you want to do a tiny piece, that would be okay, but tiny, like smaller than the tip of my finger, tiny piece. I would not give them straight milk or cream. There are some yogurt drops in the store that some like as a treat, some don't. But even with those, you want to keep in mind it's dairy, so tiny bit at a time. Hedgehogs have very small stomachs, so full grown, I'd say it's smaller than a green grape. When they're old enough to go home, it's probably penny gumball size. I'm just guessing on that, but you know, don't quote me. Yes? Oh, question?
What are your thoughts on like using fleece for bedding instead of shaving?
I skipped over fleece. That's good. I missed the fleece. I got distracted. Using fleece for bedding. A lot of people do use liners in the cage, and if you have one hedgehog, using a liner can work really well. A liner would be something like this. So made out of fleece or whatever material, and it would cover the floor of the cage. If you do use liners, one thing to keep in mind, change it often. Because the poop, the pee sits right on top. You can also, you know, use your hand or a little scoop to kind of pick the poop out of the cage, because if you have liners, if the poop's sitting on top, they do walk through it. They can get what people online call poop boots. Then you have to let them walk through water so you can soften that and get it off. One of the reasons I like shavings over liners is that what happens is when they poop, the wood, the cardboard, if you're using Carefresh, kind of clots to the poop and pulls the moisture out, makes it a little less likely to stick to the hedgehog's feet. Once it's dry, it smells a little bit less. But it's all, I wouldn't say one's better than the other. It's what you like, what works for you. You know, me with a bunch of hedgehogs, I could never manage liners. If I had one, I don't know, I'd probably still use shavings just because it's what I'm used to and I don't really like doing laundry. Um, but I know a lot of people who use liners, love liners, swear by them. So it's all what you like.
So if you use something like that, you'd have to clean it throughout the day and then wash it when
I
have an
would
extra one to switch out with it.
I would wash it probably every 1 to 2 days, depending upon the hedgehog. Younger hedgehogs poop smaller but more frequently. Older hedgehogs poop bigger but less frequently. So when they're younger, you probably want to wash it a little bit more. When they're older, you might be able to go a couple more days, especially if you have the wheel with the litter pan. If they're doing a good job of going in the wheel, you might get away with a little extra time on the liner. But if you do liners, make sure, I would say, have at least 5 of these so that you can switch them out and you're not doing laundry every day. The other thing is, if you are using liners, you probably want a low scent detergent, something you'd use with kids, like a Dreft or something that less allergens. More questions. I feel like I've forgotten stuff.
Another question. I feel like I'm asking all the questions.
That's okay.
So I've only had adult hedgehogs. I've never had a baby before.
Mhm.
So doing nails for babies, it's so hard with adults. How the heck do you do it with a baby?
All right, nails. Yes, nails are tough. When I bring out hedgehogs, I can kind of show you. But the trick is, when you're playing with your hedgehog, if you get them used to kind of touching and pulling on their paws, then they're a little bit more used to it when you go to grab the paw and hold it for nail clipping. Nail clipping is tricky. It does take practice. Hedgehogs and, well, all animals have what's called a quick in their nail. It's a little blood vessel. So if you clip too much, you're going to get some blood. Usually you can't nip the nail enough that it's really going to be a big problem. If you take a little cornstarch or flour, tap that on, it'll help stop the bleeding. Another reason I like shavings is I found that if they have, little bloody nail tips, I can put them on the shavings and that helps clot it fairly quickly too. There is quick stop or quick something that you can get in the store, in the pet store, that's made for stopping the bleeding. But cornstarch and flour are going to do the same thing, and you've already got them in your house. So
that's something where you're just kind of watching to see when they look like they're...
yeah, what happens is with the hedgehog paw, it's flat. So the nails, they'll grow out, and then they'll kind of curl down once they get long. And when they're curling down, they can curl back into the paw if it's not clipped long enough. But also it makes it harder for them to run on the wheel. So I should have brought them out. I'll bring them out in a little bit. Little, like kid-sized nail clipper. There's all sorts of different fancy nail clippers and stuff. For me, I found just a regular, plain old kid-sized nail clipper works the easiest. And then when you're starting out, 1 nail at a time is a win. You don't have to clip all of them in one shot. 1 nail at a time is a win. Take a victory lap because it takes a bit of practice. It can be frustrating, but like I was saying earlier, if when you're playing with them, you get them used to kind of touching, moving their paws, it becomes a little easier. And it's partly because they get used to you touching their paws, but it's also because now you know how hard can I hold that paw without causing any problems. How much can I move that paw without hurting the hedgehog? So the more secure that you feel, the more relaxed and secure the hedgehog's going to feel. So you'll be learning together. They have tiny stomachs. They really don't eat a lot. I'd say a tablespoon and a half would be the most, probably closer to a tablespoon.
And they're good for the day.
They're mostly going to eat at night. They're primarily nocturnal. That said, you can wake them up during the day to play, and I do encourage that. I just wait till maybe 11 o'clock just so that, because they've been up all night, so they can get some rest. If you wake them up too early, it's going to be like waking me up at 3 in the morning. They're going to be very cranky. Yeah?
If you wake them up a lot during the day, would they start waking up every day?
That's if you wake them up a lot during the day, are they going to become awake during the day? Not really. They're still, naturally, they're awake at night and they sleep during the day. You're not really going to change their routine 100%. They will get more used to waking up during the day and playing with you. I encourage you to wake them up during the day, during the evening. When you want to play with the hedgehog, play with the hedgehog, because socialization is really good for them. The more you play with the hedgehog, the friendlier they're going to get. Yeah, and if they're a little grouchy at first when you wake them up, don't worry. I'm a little grouchy at first when I wake up too. It's par for the course.
Question? Okay. And also, just to expand on the food, is that you'll fill the bowl. Just fill the bowl, and they'll just graze throughout the day. You don't have to put in exactly.
Oh yeah, sorry, we kind of jumped a little bit. Yeah, with the food, what I do is I take the bowl and I fill it about half to 3/4, and then as it empties, I'll put a little bit more in. If you pick a time of day to check your food and water, like either first thing in the morning or before you go to bed or when you come home from work, whatever routine works for you, as long as you're checking food and water sometime once a day. You don't have to dump your water out of the water bottle and clean it every day, but please fill it when it gets low.
I was going to ask, when they're up at night, other than like noise from the wheel, do they tend to make a lot of noise?
Okay, noises. Hedgehogs don't make a lot of noises at all. Yeah, the pitter-patter of the feet on the wheel you'll hear. But other than that, if you've ever owned guinea pigs, you know what a loud animal can be like. Guinea pigs will let you know when they want treats. They'll let you know when their food or water is empty. Hedgehogs won't. Hedgehogs make very little noise. I had 1 or 2 hedgehogs that have snored, and it's been the cutest little noise ever. But beyond that, they don't make a lot of noise at all. Occasionally you might hear little happy squeaks, but usually when they're alone in their cage, it's pretty quiet. It's the crunching of the food, it's running on the wheel. Our hedgehog room is downstairs. We sleep upstairs. I'm a very light sleeper. The wheel would keep me up all night. I wouldn't be able to sleep at all. But there are some people who the sound of the wheel lulls them to bed at night. Whatever works for you. Questions? All right, I'm going to grab a hedgehog and a nail clipper. And then after I show you nails, I'm going to bring out hedgehogs. Okay, so these are the clippers that I like to use. They're just little people clippers. And when you're playing with your hedgehog, you just touch and move their paws around a little bit. Kind of get them used to holding their paws. Then they're a little bit more relaxed when you actually have to anchor a paw, get the clippers in there and clip them. So I'll come and show everyone a little closer. This one is, give me a second. This one is Marjorie. So she is one of my retired grandmothers. And you might be able to see the little tips of the nails are white. So you want to clip the white, you don't want to clip the pink. It's the same concept as clipping our nails. Clip the white, don't clip the pink. And just, when you hold them, just pull, manipulate.
Like always when you're holding, try to get them used to.
Yeah, just touch them. You can also touch their belly a little bit. Some of them like to be petted on the nose. The more time you spend with the hedgehog, the more you'll discover what they like and bonding time. Bonding's great. This bin, I promise I'm going to come close to everybody and do exactly this again. 2 hands. Are you ready?
Yep.
2 hands. Try and grab underneath the hedgehog. The key is that you're not going to hurt the hedgehog. So just relax. Don't worry about hurting the hedgehog. You gotta commit and go. If you hesitate in front of the hedgehog, they're gonna get nervous. Because again, it's like having those blinders on and having two large telephone poles coming down at you. I'm gonna run in and grab some ice water. Would you like some?
I'm all good, thank you.
Okay. Are adorable. So fun.
Is she relaxed?
Yeah.
She's just like, oh no, I'm trying to curve into a ball, like I can't.